March 15, 2019, 3:47 p.m. Lincoln Elementary School, Riverside, Ohio. A mother arrives to pick up her 8-year-old daughter, just like she had every day for 3 years. But this time, she would never make it home. What the security cameras captured in the next 23 minutes would expose a web of deception that had been building for months. Family secrets, financial desperation, and a sister's betrayal so shocking, it would destroy 2 families forever. The truth? It was closer to home than anyone could have imagined. And the evidence was hiding in plain sight, recorded by cameras that were meant to keep children safe. To understand what happened on that March afternoon, we need to go back to the beginning. Meet the Mitchell family of Riverside, Ohio, a picture-perfect American family living what seemed to be an ideal suburban life. David Mitchell, 34, was a successful insurance agent who had built his practice from the ground up over 10 years. His wife Sarah, 32, was a part-time graphic designer who had chosen to prioritize raising their daughter Emma. 8-year-old Emma Mitchell was the light of her parents' lives. Honor roll student, soccer player, and the kind of child who made friends with everyone. The Mitchells seemed to have it all: a beautiful home on Elm Street, financial stability, and a love story that had started in college. But in every family there are secrets. And in the Mitchell family, those secrets were about to explode in the most tragic way possible. Sarah Mitchell was known throughout the community for one thing above all else: her unwavering reliability. PTA meetings, soccer practice, playdates, school pickup. Sarah was never late, never unprepared, never anything less than perfect. Her daily routine was so precise you could set your watch by it. And everyone who knew Sarah understood that this wasn't just organization, it was love in action. But there was another woman in this story whose life was spiraling in the opposite direction. Meet Rebecca Mitchell Torres, Sarah's younger sister by 3 years. Where Sarah had found stability and happiness, Rebecca had encountered one disaster after another. Her marriage to Carlos Torres had ended in a bitter divorce just 8 months before March 15th. The proceedings had been ugly, expensive, and financially devastating. Rebecca had always lived in her older sister's shadow. Sarah was the academic achiever, the one who found love first, the one who seemed to effortlessly excel at everything she touched. And Rebecca struggled. The divorce settlement had left Rebecca with crushing debt. Legal fees alone had cost her over $45,000. Her credit cards were maxed out, her savings depleted, and her ex-husband Carlos was fighting the alimony payments. But what made Rebecca's situation even more desperate was something she hadn't told anyone, not even Sarah. Rebecca had been secretly gambling online for over 2 years, and she owed dangerous people dangerous amounts of money. By February 2019, Rebecca owed over $73,000 to various creditors and loan sharks. She was receiving threatening phone calls daily. Her apartment was going into foreclosure, and she was running out of options fast. Which brings us to the most disturbing part of Rebecca's story: her growing obsession with her sister's seemingly perfect life and her substantial assets. Let's take a closer look at Sarah Mitchell's famous routine, because understanding her predictability is crucial to understanding how this tragedy unfolded. Every weekday morning, 7:30 a.m., Sarah and Emma have breakfast together. Always the same thing: whole grain toast, fresh fruit, and orange juice for Emma. Coffee and yogurt for Sarah. 8 a.m. they leave the house together. Sarah drives the same route to Lincoln Elementary every single day. Elm Street to Maple, Maple to 3rd Avenue, 3rd Avenue to the school. Exactly 1.7 miles, taking exactly 8 minutes in normal traffic. 8:15 a.m. drop-off. Sarah walks Emma to the main entrance, gives her the same goodbye routine: a hug, a kiss on the forehead, and "Have a wonderful day, sweetheart." Emma waves from the entrance. Sarah waits until she disappears inside. But it was the afternoon pickup where Sarah's routine became almost ritualistic. And this is where our story begins to take its dark turn. 3:30 p.m., Sarah stops work no matter what project she's in the middle of. 3:40 p.m. she leaves her home office. 3:45 p.m. arrives at Lincoln Elementary and parks in the same spot, third row back, second space from the left. For 3 years, Sarah had parked in that exact spot. The school security cameras had recorded her in that location over 540 times. Never late, never in a different spot, never varying her routine by more than 2 or 3 minutes. 3:50 p.m., Sarah walks to the main office. She doesn't wait in her car like some parents. She goes inside, signs Emma out personally, and waits in the lobby until Emma arrives with her backpack and any artwork or projects from the day. 4:05 p.m. They leave together, stopping to talk to other parents for exactly 3 to 5 minutes of polite conversation. Sarah knew every parent by name, remembered their children's achievements, and asked about their families. 4:10 p.m., drive home, same route in reverse with one possible stop at Miller's Market if they needed groceries. 4:20 p.m., home for snack time and homework. This routine was so well known that other parents often joked about being able to set their watches by Sarah Mitchell. The school faculty knew her schedule. The crossing guards waved at the same time every day. Even the local coffee shop owner knew when to expect Sarah's quick morning stop for her daily latte. But what made this routine particularly significant was that someone else had been studying it very carefully. Someone who knew exactly when and where Sarah would be most vulnerable. To understand what happened on March 15th, we need to examine the weeks leading up to that fateful day. Because what police discovered later would reveal that this wasn't a crime of sudden passion. It was planned, calculated, and devastatingly premeditated. February 18, 2019, almost a month before Sarah's disappearance. Security footage from Sarah's own home shows something unusual. Rebecca's car is in the driveway at 2:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. This was odd because Rebecca knew Sarah would be working in her home office at this time. What investigators later discovered was that Rebecca had called Sarah that morning, claiming she needed to borrow some old photo albums for a project she was working on. It was a lie. Rebecca was actually conducting reconnaissance. During that visit, Rebecca did 3 things that would become crucial to understanding her later actions. First, she took photos of Sarah's jewelry collection with her phone. Second, she memorized the layout of the house, particularly noting where Sarah kept important documents. And third, she discovered something that would change everything. In Sarah's home office, Rebecca found documents that revealed just how financially successful her sister had become. Bank statements showing savings accounts with over $180,000. Investment portfolios worth nearly $300,000. Life insurance policies worth $500,000. But the discovery that really sent Rebecca over the edge was Emma's college fund, an account with over $95,000 that Sarah and David had been contributing to since Emma was born. For Rebecca, drowning in debt and facing threats from loan sharks, these numbers represented a lifeline. But they also represented something else, proof of the unfairness she felt had defined her entire relationship with her sister. February 25th, 1 week later. Home security footage shows Rebecca visiting again, this time with a different purpose. She's no longer just observing, she's taking action. This is when the stealing began. Small items at first, a piece of jewelry here, some cash from Sarah's purse there. Things Sarah might not notice immediately, if at all. March 1st, Rebecca escalates. Security cameras capture her leaving Sarah's house with a large bag. Later investigation would reveal this bag contained over $3,000 in cash that Sarah had been saving for a family vacation, plus several pieces of expensive jewelry. March 8th, exactly 1 week before Sarah's disappearance. Bank records show an unauthorized withdrawal of $15,000 from Emma's college fund. Rebecca had somehow gained access to the account information and had transferred the money to cover her most pressing debts. This theft would have gone unnoticed for weeks, possibly months, except for one thing Rebecca didn't know about: David Mitchell's meticulous financial tracking habits. David reviewed all family accounts every Friday evening. It was his way of staying on top of their financial goals and planning for the future. And on Friday, March 15th, he was about to discover his sister-in-law's devastating betrayal. Friday, March 15th, 2019. The day that would destroy two families began like any other day in the Mitchell household. 7:30 a.m. Sarah and Emma have their usual breakfast. Home security footage shows a completely normal morning routine. Sarah is smiling, helping Emma with her backpack, discussing the day ahead. 8:15 a.m. normal drop-off at Lincoln Elementary. School security cameras show Sarah and Emma's usual goodbye ritual. Nothing seems amiss. Sarah waves as Emma disappears into the school building. 9 a.m. Sarah returns home and begins her workday. She has 3 graphic design projects due that week and is working to stay ahead of schedule. But at 11:30 a.m., David Mitchell makes a discovery that changes everything. David is reviewing the family accounts when he notices the unauthorized withdrawal from Emma's college fund. $15,000 gone. The withdrawal had been made using Sarah's login credentials, but David knows his wife would never touch that money without discussing it with him first. 11:45 a.m. David calls the bank. After 20 minutes of security verification, he learns that the withdrawal was made from a computer with an IP address he doesn't recognize. Someone has stolen Sarah's banking information and cleaned out their daughter's college fund. 12:15 p.m., David begins checking other accounts. What he discovers is a pattern of small thefts going back weeks. Cash withdrawals Sarah never made. Credit card charges for things they never bought. Someone has been systematically stealing from his family. 1:30 p.m., David starts reviewing their home security footage. What he sees makes his blood run cold. Multiple visits from Rebecca, always when Sarah is alone, always during work hours. And in several instances, Rebecca can be seen leaving with bags or packages. 2 p.m., David calls his wife. This is the phone call that will set the tragic events of the afternoon in motion. The conversation lasts exactly 12 minutes. Sarah is shocked, then devastated, then angry. David shows her the evidence remotely, the bank statements, the security footage, the pattern of theft. By the end of the call, Sarah is crying. But Sarah makes a decision that will prove to be fatal. Instead of letting David handle the situation or calling the police immediately, Sarah decides to confront her sister directly. She believes she can reason with Rebecca, help her find another way out of her financial troubles. 2:30 p.m. Sarah calls Rebecca. This conversation is shorter, only 4 minutes and 17 seconds. But witnesses later describe Sarah as upset and shaken after making this call. What Sarah doesn't know is that Rebecca has been expecting this call. She's been preparing for the possibility that her thefts would be discovered, and she has a plan. 2:35 p.m., Rebecca Mitchell Torres is in her apartment, packing a bag. She knows the game is up. The thefts have been discovered, and her sister is demanding a meeting. But Rebecca has been planning for this moment. Investigation later revealed that Rebecca had researched Sarah's daily routine obsessively. She knew about the school pickup, the exact timing, the isolated parking area, and she had identified it as the perfect location for what she had planned. 2:45 p.m., Rebecca leaves her apartment, but she's not going directly to meet Sarah. First, she makes a stop that investigators would later find crucial to understanding her state of mind. Security footage from Riverside Bank shows Rebecca attempting to open a new account using false identification that uses Sarah's personal information. The bank employee becomes suspicious and asks Rebecca to wait while she processes the paperwork. 2:52 p.m., Rebecca panics and leaves the bank. Her plan to assume Sarah's identity and access her accounts has failed. She's running out of options, and the people she owes money to are not patient people. 3 p.m. Rebecca calls Sarah back. This time the conversation is different. Rebecca claims she can explain everything, that she has a solution that will make everything right. She asks Sarah to meet her in the Lincoln Elementary parking lot before pickup time. Sarah agrees, but she makes one crucial decision. She decides to record the conversation on her phone. She's beginning to understand that her sister might be more desperate and dangerous than she initially realized. 3:15 p.m. Rebecca arrives at Lincoln Elementary and parks her red sedan in the back row of the parking lot, far from the security cameras she thinks are recording the main entrance. What Rebecca doesn't know is that the school has recently upgraded its security system. New cameras have been installed that cover the entire parking lot with high-definition recording capabilities. 3:30 p.m. Sarah leaves her house for what she believes will be a difficult conversation with her sister. She has no idea she's driving to her own death. 3:40 p.m. Sarah calls David from her car. It's a brief conversation. She tells him she's going to talk to Rebecca before the school pickup, that she'll handle everything, and that she'll call him afterward. David later said this was the last time he heard his wife's voice, and something about her tone made him uneasy. She sounded scared. 3:47 p.m. Lincoln Elementary School security cameras begin recording what will become some of the most crucial evidence in a murder investigation. Camera 1 main entrance angle. Sarah's silver Honda Civic enters the parking lot. But immediately something is wrong. Sarah doesn't park in her usual spot. Instead, she drives toward the back of the parking lot, where Rebecca is waiting. 3:48 p.m. Camera 2 parking lot overview. The two cars park side by side. Through the windshields you can see both women are visibly agitated. Their body language suggests an intense conversation is already underway. 3:52 p.m. Camera 3 side angle. Rebecca gets out of her car and approaches Sarah's vehicle. But she's carrying something in her hand. Enhancement of the footage later reveals it's a large kitchen knife. 3:54 p.m. Sarah opens her car door, but she doesn't get out completely. She appears to be trying to maintain distance from her sister while still engaging in conversation. Audio recovery from Sarah's phone reveals the beginning of their final conversation. Rebecca, David found everything. The bank records, the withdrawals, all of it. We need to figure out how to fix this. You don't understand, Sarah. I can't fix this. The people I owe money to, they don't accept payment plans. Then we'll get you help. We'll call the police, file for bankruptcy, something. But stealing from Emma's college fund? How could you do that? 3:58 p.m. The conversation escalates quickly. Camera 4 captures Rebecca becoming increasingly agitated, waving the knife as she speaks. You've always had everything. Perfect husband, perfect house, perfect child, perfect life. Do you know what it's like to watch your sister have everything while you lose everything? Rebecca, put the knife down. We can work this out. David and I will help you, but you need to put the weapon down right now. 4:03 p.m. This is when the situation spirals completely out of control. Rebecca opens Sarah's car door and forces her way into the passenger seat. 4:05 p.m. Camera 5, positioned near the school's side entrance, captures what happens next. Rebecca is now in control of the situation, and Sarah is clearly in fear for her life. Emma will be waiting for me. She'll be scared if I don't show up. Emma will be fine. She'll go to David, and David will take care of everything, just like he always does. 4:08 p.m. Rebecca forces Sarah to drive. Both women are now in Sarah's Honda Civic, leaving the school parking lot. Rebecca's red sedan remains behind, a crucial mistake that will later help investigators track their movements. 4:10 p.m. The last clear security footage shows Sarah's car leaving Lincoln Elementary. In the back seat, clearly visible to the cameras, is Rebecca's bag, the same bag she had packed earlier, suggesting this confrontation was planned. What happened in the next 2 hours can only be reconstructed from Sarah's phone recording, GPS tracking data, and security cameras from various locations around Riverside. 4:15 p.m., Sarah's car GPS shows they're heading east on Route 34, away from both their homes and toward the industrial district on the outskirts of town. Traffic camera footage from the intersection of Route 34 and Industrial Way shows Sarah's Honda Civic running a red light, unusual behavior for someone who was obsessively careful about following rules. Audio from Sarah's phone reveals the conversation continues during this drive, and it becomes clear that Rebecca's plan is evolving in real time. Drive to the warehouse district. There's an abandoned building there where we can talk without interruption. Rebecca, Emma will be scared. The school will call David. People will start looking for me. That's exactly what I need. I need time to think, to figure out how to make this work. 4:22 p.m. security footage from Miller's Industrial Supply shows Sarah's car turning into the warehouse district. This is an area with minimal traffic and few witnesses, exactly what Rebecca needed. 4:28 p.m. The car stops at an abandoned textile warehouse that had been closed for over 3 years. This building had no power, no phone service, and no security cameras. It was the perfect location for what Rebecca had planned. What investigators later discovered was that Rebecca had been to this location before. Her phone's GPS history showed 3 previous visits to this exact spot over the past 2 weeks. 4:35 p.m. The phone recording captures what happens when they arrive at the warehouse. Rebecca, let's just go back. Emma needs me, and David is probably worried sick. We're not going back until you agree to help me. You're going to give me access to your accounts, and you're going to tell David this was all a misunderstanding. I can't do that. What you did was theft. I love you, but I can't cover this up. 4:40 p.m. This is when Rebecca's desperation turns to violence. The phone recording captures the sound of a struggle, Sarah screaming for help, and then a sound that investigators later identified as a fatal blow. 4:42 p.m. Silence. The recording continues for another 18 minutes, but there are no more voices. Only the sound of Rebecca moving around, presumably trying to figure out what to do next. 5 p.m. While Emma Mitchell waits in the school office wondering where her mother is, Rebecca Mitchell Torres is attempting to cover up the crime she never intended to commit. Phone GPS data shows Rebecca spent over an hour at the warehouse, and investigators later pieced together exactly what she was doing during this time. First, Rebecca moved Sarah's body to a storage room in the back of the warehouse, covering it with old tarps and industrial materials she found on site. Second, she cleaned Sarah's car as thoroughly as possible, though forensic analysis later found traces of blood that she missed. Third, and most importantly, Rebecca attempted to execute the identity theft plan she had been developing for weeks. Rebecca had created false identification documents using Sarah's information. Her plan was to assume her sister's identity, access her bank accounts, and disappear with enough money to pay off her debts and start over. 6:15 p.m., Rebecca drives Sarah's car back toward town, but she makes a crucial error. Instead of parking the car at Sarah's house, she leaves it in the Lincoln Elementary parking lot, hoping to make it appear that Sarah simply vanished after school pickup. 6:30 p.m., Rebecca returns to the warehouse in her own car to retrieve Sarah's body and move it to what she hoped would be a permanent hiding place. But Rebecca's plan had a fatal flaw. She had underestimated how quickly and thoroughly the investigation would begin. 5:30 p.m. Lincoln Elementary School Principal Janet Rodriguez calls David Mitchell. Sarah has never failed to pick up Emma, and no one has heard from her. 6 p.m., David arrives at the school to collect Emma. Sarah's car is in the parking lot, but Sarah is nowhere to be found. David immediately calls 911. 6:15 p.m., Riverside Police Department begins what they initially treat as a missing person case. Officer Maria Santos is the first responder, and she immediately notices something unusual about Sarah's car. The car is locked, but through the windows, Officer Santos can see Sarah's purse, her phone charger, and Emma's booster seat, all things Sarah would never leave behind if she had left voluntarily. 6:45 p.m., Detective James Crawford arrives to take over the investigation. With over 15 years of experience, Crawford immediately suspects foul play. 7 p.m., police begin reviewing security footage from Lincoln Elementary. What they discover within the first hour changes the entire direction of the investigation. The footage clearly shows Sarah arriving with someone in her car, engaging in what appears to be a confrontation, and then leaving under obvious duress. 8:30 p.m., Rebecca Mitchell-Torres receives a phone call from Detective Crawford asking her to come to the police station to discuss her sister's disappearance. Rebecca agrees to come in the next morning, claiming she's too upset to talk that evening. This delay gives her one more night to attempt to complete her cover-up. But Rebecca doesn't know that police have already identified her as the person in Sarah's car, and they're monitoring her movements. March 16, 2019, the morning after Sarah's disappearance. Rebecca Mitchell-Torres wakes up knowing this could be her last day of freedom. 9 a.m., Rebecca arrives at Riverside Police Department for questioning. Detective Crawford notices immediately that she appears to have fresh scratches on her arms and bruising on her hands. 9:15 a.m., the interrogation begins. Rebecca's story is that she last saw Sarah 2 weeks ago, that they had a normal sisterly relationship, and that she has no idea what could have happened. But Detective Crawford has spent the night reviewing evidence, and he's prepared for this conversation. Rebecca, we have security footage showing you in your sister's car yesterday afternoon. Would you like to explain that? That's impossible. I wasn't with Sarah yesterday. We also have audio recording from Sarah's phone of your conversation at the warehouse. Would you like to hear it? This is when Rebecca realizes her situation is hopeless. The recording she didn't know existed has captured everything: her threats, her demands, and the moment she killed her sister. 10:30 a.m., Rebecca asks for a lawyer and stops talking. But the evidence speaks for itself. 11 a.m., while Rebecca sits in holding, police use GPS data from her phone to locate the warehouse where Sarah was killed. 12:15 p.m. search teams arrive at the abandoned textile warehouse. What they find there confirms everyone's worst fears. The search of the warehouse reveals a crime scene that tells the complete story of Sarah Mitchell's final hours. In the main floor area, investigators find clear signs of a struggle, overturned furniture, blood spatter patterns, and Sarah's earrings scattered on the floor. In the storage room, they make the discovery everyone was dreading but expecting: Sarah Mitchell's body, covered with industrial tarps. The forensic examination reveals that Sarah died from blunt force trauma to the head, likely from being struck with a piece of metal pipe that was found at the scene with Rebecca's fingerprints on it. But perhaps the most heartbreaking discovery was what investigators found in Sarah's pocket: a small note she had written to Emma, apparently while being held at the warehouse. The note read, "Emma, Mommy loves you more than all the stars in the sky. Be brave, be kind, and remember that Daddy will always take care of you. You are my greatest achievement and my greatest joy." Sarah had somehow managed to write this final message to her daughter while being held captive, knowing she might not survive the encounter with her sister. March 18, 2019, Rebecca Mitchell-Torres is formally charged with first-degree murder, kidnapping, theft, and identity fraud. The trial begins in September 2019, 6 months after Sarah's murder. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Patricia Williams, presents a case built on overwhelming evidence. The security footage from Lincoln Elementary School is played in court, showing the jury exactly how Rebecca forced Sarah to leave with her. The audio recording from Sarah's phone is perhaps the most damaging evidence. The jury hears Sarah pleading for her life, begging Rebecca to think about Emma, and trying to reason with her increasingly desperate sister. Rebecca's defense attorney, Michael Chin, attempts to argue that this was a crime of passion, that Rebecca never intended to kill her sister, and that financial desperation had driven her to a mental breakdown. But the prosecution counters with evidence of premeditation: the weeks of theft, the research into Sarah's routine, the previous visits to the warehouse, and the identity theft materials found in Rebecca's apartment. November 15, 2019, after deliberating for just 4 hours, the jury returns with a verdict: guilty on all counts. During the sentencing phase, David Mitchell addresses the court. "Rebecca didn't just kill my wife, she killed Emma's mother, she killed a daughter, a sister, a friend to dozens of people. Sarah was the kind of person who made the world better just by being in it. Rebecca took that light away from all of us, and for what? Money that she could have asked for. Help that we would have given freely." November 22, 2019, Rebecca Mitchell Torres is sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Today, more than 4 years after Sarah Mitchell's murder, the impact of this tragedy continues to ripple through the Riverside community. Emma Mitchell, now 12 years old, lives with her father David. They've moved to a different town to escape the constant reminders of the tragedy, but David says Emma still asks about her mother every day. Lincoln Elementary School has established the Sarah Mitchell Memorial Garden, where parents and children can reflect on the importance of safety, kindness, and the precious nature of our daily routines. The school has also upgraded its security system even further, with the Sarah Mitchell Fund providing resources for enhanced safety measures at schools throughout the district. Detective James Crawford, who led the investigation, says this case changed how he views family crimes. "We often think of family as our safe harbor, the people we can trust absolutely. This case reminds us that sometimes the greatest danger comes from those closest to us, especially when desperation and financial pressure combine with long-standing family dynamics." Rebecca Mitchell Torres remains in Riverside Correctional Facility. She has never expressed genuine remorse for killing her sister, and in her one interview since conviction, she maintained that Sarah could have prevented all of this by helping her financially. Sarah Mitchell's story serves as a powerful reminder of several important truths. Financial desperation can drive people to unthinkable acts. Family loyalty should never require covering up crimes. And the routines that make us feel safe can also make us vulnerable to those who wish us harm. But perhaps most importantly, Sarah's story reminds us to cherish the ordinary moments, the daily school pickups, the bedtime stories, the family dinners, because we never know when those routines might be shattered by events beyond our control. The security cameras that captured Sarah Mitchell's final moments were installed to protect children. If you found this story as shocking as we did, please subscribe to Crime Uncover for more true crime investigations that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about trust, family, and justice.